Okay, back to working on the 2003 Hummer H2. You guys may remember this one from a while back. I swapped it over to a 4L80E from the incredibly weak 4L60E. That breaks often in these, and this one was no different, so swapped that out. Put a couple of transmission fluid coolers on the front, but now, after changing everything on the whole front end, A-arms, ball joints, every single thing, just got that all done. Well, my girlfriend brought it home and said, "Is it normal for it to be puking out gallons of coolant out from under the truck?" For the record, no. It shouldn't do that ever. Let's get under there and see what's going on. And for those of you who pay attention to such things, 18, smaller ones in the back are 15s. We always start in the back on these because this plate, while it's not crazy heavy, it has some weight to it. And you want to have the back hanging down before the front. That way you can kind of hold the front as you remove that last bolt. It's also a good idea to go ahead and open up the clamshell, because when this is open, a whole lot more light comes in. Let's go ahead and do that. Make sure it clears. I did not plan that at all. It just happened. Not a whole lot of components to a cooling system, so I'm going to check the ones that matter here. Your actual radiator that could be leaking looks dry across the bottom of that, all the way across. So we're going to come back in here, see if we can see anything back here. The one thing that could be bad is if it's wet back further back in that area, is that it could be a freeze plug. It got cold recently here, and yeah, I'll admit, when you live in Florida, you tend to neglect making sure you have enough antifreeze. So let's go on top, see what we can find. That top hose there was replaced just a few months ago because I did the hose and I did the thermostat housing, water pump, the idler. I try to make it so whenever I do some kind of change like a water pump, everything I touch gets replaced too. That pump, you can tell that's new. The hose looks like it's old, but it was just kind of a stain that it had on it when I got it. The front one looks dry. Well, not the front, the top one. And if you look at the bottom one, it looks dry too. And the bottom of the radiator is dry, so this actually is pointing at a freeze plug popping out. We're gonna get behind the driver's side wheel and look down there. Well, man, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to see much in there this way. Really wet around that filter there, but I may have to actually turn it on and see if I can see where it's coming from, because it's not been running in a day. Everything seems to have dried up. Do have some kind of transmission or oil leak. And it really looked like it was on this side. It's going to be hard to get up in there, especially with a camera. So you guys hold on. I'm going to do some spelunking. One more quick check of where the lines go into the firewall there and make sure that's dry, because these will present themselves as a problem sometimes. Way over there, under there, they look dry. I'm going to fire this up just for a minute and see what happens. See, with that pan on there, now this seems like it's dry too, but see, with the pan on there, all these places where it could be leaking wind up dumping it in one spot, which is kind of right under where your feet are if you're driving, that little area. Now I'll top that thing off. Smells a little warm in there, but you know, with it puking fluid. Let's go top that thing off real quick. And look at that! All right. Boy, that's really obvious where that's coming from. Too bad I don't have my flashlight with me. Where the heck is it coming from? The heck? Not even running and just pouring out. Check that out. I mean, wow. Look at my flashlight. It's the oddest place ever. It's that top bolt heck? YouTube, I don't just make videos, I utilize it for gaining information. It looks as if behind that bracket there that holds the power steering pump and the alternator, there's an expansion valve, kind of like a little freeze plug, if you will. It's a bit smaller on the front of the cylinder head. It's either going to be that, or there's another expansion plug, kind of a freeze plug looking thing down under the timing cover, which is a much bigger deal. So as I take this bracket off here, let's all cross our fingers and hope that it's the one that's on the front of the cylinder head, because the other one involves a little more stuff. Before I go any further, I want to let you guys know that in every single one of my videos from here on out, I'm going to have a fire extinguisher on hand. If you saw my last video, I bought a dart at a junkyard, and things went less than perfectly. So, I mean, no lives were lost, but there was loss of pride. I was humiliated. Looks like I'm going to have to take off the bracket that has the alternator and the power steering on it, which is a lot easier than you would imagine. GM, in an effort to kind of make things a bit simple, if you have a 10 millimeter with you, a 13, 15, 17, think odd numbers except the 10, then you can remove almost everything under the hood. If you want to remove everything, bring a 7, an 8, a 10, 13, 15, 17, 19, and you can pretty much disassemble the whole truck. Anyway, let's get on these right here. We'll start off with this one right here, and then we'll get the one on the back for the power lug. I've already detached the battery. 4 or 5 more bolts back in here, and then this should answer the question if it's that front freeze plug on the head or the one behind the timing cover. We don't want it to be the one behind the timing cover. Think positive thoughts. Before I go any further on this, I want to point out, I don't get any kind of endorsement fee or any kind of anything from Harbor Freight, but I like to point out every time I got a tool there that's genuinely good, and this one is. It's pretty straightforward. It's just a Pittsburgh. It's not that Icon brand, but it's a 1/4 inch drive on one side, 3/8 on the other. Has little adjustments where you can make it longer or shorter. And this thing has yanked probably 30 engines out of cars. This thing works well. After that first bolt on the other side there, got another one right here. And then the rest are inside the bracket down there. There's like, I think 3 or 4. We'll get to them. 15 is now put down on this tensioner here so I can release the pressure on that belt and remove that. You know, you're also going to find a bolt down in there. You're not really going to see it from up here. If you look very closely, you see something a little reflective to the side of that power steering cap. There's another bolt that's down on the bottom there, very bottom of the bracket. It's been a while since I tore one of these apart. I got lucky. See that right there? See the wetness on it? See over in the left corner? That's my problem. And it's the least of the 2 problems that it could have been. So now what I do is I get a screwdriver. I tap lightly on one side of that till it kind of goes 90 degrees, so it's kind of stuck in there at an angle. Like if you were holding, let's say, a coin between your thumb and your finger. Very pleasant surprise. Maher Chevrolet in St. Petersburg, Florida. About $3.50 a piece, so I got 2. Might change out the other cylinder head. I might not. Okay, I won't. I won't change the other one, but I'll have a spare. All right, there's a rough idea what we're going to do. This screwdriver may be a bit too long. I may have to climb back down from here. But start tapping it. Knock in one side of it. Okay, I want to tell you guys now, don't freak if this gets knocked down inside that cylinder head. It's really easy to retrieve. Just have some needle nose, and it's made so it can't go very far in there. That's obviously the big old piece that I knocked out right there, but look closer. See those 2 holes? Those are not drilled there. Those were rust holes. You can't really tell, but there's so much buildup on the other side. See that through there? You can kind of see through it. Yeah. This happens. And one of the reasons it can happen is if you don't change your antifreeze often enough. Your antifreeze becomes incredibly acidic because it takes on trace amounts of combustion and things like that, especially as time goes on. But that's what we're taking out, and we're going to put the new one right there. There are lots of choices you can use when it comes to what you're going to put around here. A lot of people use the orange stuff, but this is high temp silicone gasket maker, and it's most expensive one I found, so let's see if that works. We're just going to smear it right around the edges here, and we should be able, because the clearances are so close, we should be able to just press this in with our thumb or fingers, and then we're going to put a socket in it. I'll show you what I mean by that. Found a socket here. We're going to just put the socket in, well, like that, and then going to tap the edge of this with a hammer until this thing is seated. You'll know when it's seated because the place where it goes into the side of the cylinder head is kind of beveled, kind of has a beveled edge to it, and then when this gets past that and you see the area around the side of it, the hole is just non-beveled. Don't go any further than that. Well, I got this side put in, and the reason I'm saying it that way, I have this side put in, is because, let me move my foot here, see if I can get a shot of this. I just wanted to point something out to you. See that? That one's just starting to leak a little bit too, so good thing I bought two, right? Also, the good thing about this side is that there's nothing in the way, so this one's a lot easier. I'm gonna get on that right now. See, you can tell exactly where it's been just slowly dripping it. And that's the kind of thing that if you don't pay attention to it one day, your truck overheats, you're not close to the house, you keep driving, and you blow up your 6.0. So I'm gonna grab down inside the head there because the plug went down in it. But I'm gonna fish that out real quick, show you what that one looks like. I think I did the right thing taking this one out. See the hole? The holes. Now, I didn't do that with the screwdriver. Holy crap. Go pop this one in now. Quick note, next time you see a video on YouTube and the guy tells you that the passenger side plug is easier, he's lying. I had to take off that the tensioner, the whole assembly right there. Let me back out a little bit here. It's all messed up. Anyway, I had to take off that tensioner there because I couldn't fit a socket on that freeze plug because that little bracket, see where the bolt boss is? Yeah, so that has to come off. You can save time by just going ahead and removing it, but I tried and tried and tried until it got a little easier when I removed it, but it's still, believe it or not, this side is harder than the driver's side. I know that's crazy because you're looking right at it, but that's the truth. Now, I don't mean to give you the impression that this is incredibly difficult over here. I'm just saying that because I had to do the whole trial and error thing, that's what made it more time consuming. All you really have to do if you want to make this go smoothly over here is just go ahead and take this off. Just have it out of, there's just so little room down here that you can't get anything to really fit down in there. Once you do this, it's not like you have a lot of room, but you have enough room. Get this back on here and I'll start reassembling some other stuff. And the pulley back on the tensioner. Has that little piece in the middle that's kind of a sleeve, so it kind of self-locates on there, makes it nice. So when you're making YouTube videos. All of these things, like I told you before, are 15s. Everything holding that bracket on over there, the power steering and alternator bracket. That's all 15, plus all this stuff down here too. First we get this big bracket here and just kind of get it in its basic position. You're not going to get it dead on yet, but close. Make sure your serpentine belt is out of the way first. Now we're not going to put the alternator on yet. That'll go on toward the end. But what we're going to do right now is just kind of jiggle this around and get it back where it was. Make sure it starts lining up with the bolts, like there's one there and one there, and just kind of jiggle it around. You'll start to see where they go. Also on the bottom, there's a stud that the bottom will slide onto, and if you get that one located, it'll make the whole top end much easier to do. See the stud down there I located? Touching it with the screwdriver right now. Once you get that on there, the other bolts will be really close. We'll get that one lined up first. You know, actually, there's no better time to clean that throttle body than right now. You already have that box off there, so you may as well try it. And it's only going to take you a few seconds. And yet another helpful hint while you guys are trying to jump start it or something. See how it says G&D right there? You can put the ground cable on your jumper cables right there. that big lug right on the corner. Because if you look, you know, it's kind of hard to get cables up in there. So it's actually, you know, you can hook up your hot right here too, right inside this red plastic box. So if you want to jump start it, theoretically put one there and one right there instead of on the battery. Those little side posts, you just don't have much room to get a good connection, you know. I know on my truck, since I have an aftermarket alternator, it's the same type and everything, but from a parts store, the fittings here can be a little tight. See that little thing right there? Those can be a little tight, so I always mount this bracket first, but I put on the alternator before the belt, obviously, so it's just kind of a difficult thing to get in there. See all those scrapes where I tried last time? It can be a bear. Take your time, put the bolt on that side first, and then this side, you can just kind of shove down into position. Get this bolt finger tight over here, and then once that's finger tight, see, you'll be able to apply some pressure, lift, and drop this one down into its perch. Be a lot easier. Now I realize to some of you this may be just really basic logical stuff, but sticker under the hood, V6 engines, gasoline engines, diesel, obviously 6.0 are in the middle, so that gives you a diagram of how everything goes. If yours is gone, screenshot that one real quick. See where it says AC condenser down on the lower left? Well, on the left. Don't worry about that at all unless you're changing that one out too. Most people just leave that one on. It's behind the regular serpentine belt, so most of the time you don't touch it. Well, she's back together, and just in time too, man. That sun is going down. I want to tell you guys that since I cleaned the throttle body, it took a couple of times to get it started up, because obviously that stuff was down in the intake and kind of threw off all the sensors. So be patient, crank it a few times, and if it doesn't fire up still, disconnect the battery for a few minutes, come back out, and it should start. Thank you guys for watching.